What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got something really interesting that I want to talk about with you guys, especially if you're an OKC fan and Cleveland fan for that matter, as I feel like there is a couple of things that could definitely happen by the time I think the next offseason comes up. I don't think this is going to be a deadline type of move, but there is a trade that I feel like will potentially happen between OKC and the Cleveland Cavaliers that I think will make both teams a lot better than what they are right now. Now, it is no secret that the Cleveland Cavaliers and Colin Sexton, it just doesn't seem to work. You might be like, well, you don't know anything, you don't watch Cavs games. In fact, I do watch Cavs games. I have watched every single Cavs game so far this season at the time of making this video, and I'm a huge Cleveland Cavaliers fan. And I'm not shy to say that Colin Sexton on the Cavs does not work at the moment, and it is legitimately a fact at this point that the Cleveland Cavaliers do better when Ricky Rubio and Darius Garland are sharing the backcourt than what Darius Garland and Colin Sexton do. Now, here's the thing with Colin Sexton. I'm not saying he's a bad player. Please don't think that at all. I'm just saying it would be better for him and the Cleveland Cavaliers if they were to, both part ways. And the reason I'm saying this is because the Cleveland Cavaliers, it is clear right now that they do need a shot creator, but I don't think Colin Sexton is really good enough to be guarding, that 2 position. Defensively, he's not tall enough. And also, I think they should actually go after a shot creator like Brandon Ingram, who can come and slot into that small forward position. Another reason to get rid of Colin Sexton is that Isaac Okoro actually looks like a way better player when he plays the shooting guard position. Okoro at small forward just doesn't look right. He seems too small to be guarding that small forward position. He struggles against taller small forwards. And I think he actually looks pretty good at shooting guard. And if he was to develop a jumper, would actually be a really nice player for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Now, again, you probably have to trade him up to get Brandon Ingram. But I don't really feel like you would, especially if you trade away Colin Sexton and you bring in some assets, from that trade. The other thing with the Cleveland Cavaliers and Colin Sexton right now is with the situation, right now and Colin Sexton, I think that he also just doesn't fit in the style that the Cavaliers run. The Cavaliers have been running a really kind of pace and space team right now, which doesn't work in Colin Sexton's favor. Colin Sexton, the way he likes to play is when he can have the ball in his hands, isolating, can get a pick and roll going, doesn't usually use the roll, just usually, shoots or takes it on by himself. He usually likes to play to be pretty slow. And that's when the Cavaliers, when they got rid of those isolation plays and the plays were much faster for Cleveland this year, Colin Sexton's scoring dropped from around 24 points per game to around 16 points per game, just because he had the ball less in his hands and there was more of a perimeter offense, pace and space type of offense going on, instead of Sexton just isolating with the ball. It just didn't really work at all. And again, because the Cleveland Cavaliers have gone this way, and it has looked to be really good, I think Brandon Ingram would really fit with this Cavaliers kind of system that they're operating with right now. And also, I just don't think, as I said, Colin Sexton works in the system. Again, that's one reason. Okoro plays better at the 2. That's another reason. Another reason as well is that Sexton wants a lot of money. And the Cavaliers are already tied up with Kevin Love's contract. Ricky Rubio is going to be wanting an extension. And they're still looking to bring in a star. I don't see how they're going to be able to afford Colin Sexton. And they're going to have to extend Darius Garland soon as well. It doesn't really work out for him. And again, he's probably not going to get the money that he wants. But when we look at Oklahoma not only have the money that Colin Sexton, wants, they not only have the assets that the Cleveland Cavaliers want, which I'll get to in a second, but they also would be a perfect system for Colin Sexton. And what I mean by this right now is, surprisingly, OKC's coaches done pretty well. He's had some bad rosters in the last 2 years, and I'm not sure of his name. I don't think many people know his name, but he's actually, to give him some credit, has managed to win some games with an undermanned OKC team, even though it didn't look good at the start of the season. This guy's winning games with, no disrespect, to SGA, Lou Dort, and Josh Giddey. I think they have 3 spectacular players, but their support system is Kendrick Williams, Ty Jerome, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Isaiah Roby, and Trey Mann. They shouldn't be that good of players. A lot of them are young and still trying to figure it out, and they shouldn't be good rotational pieces, but they've managed to play pretty good. Even though this team is mainly built off SGA, I think there's a pretty good foundation being built in Oklahoma, and I really like Josh Giddey and SGA, you know, so much that I think OKC, what their coach is trying to do is he's trying to bring back the system, it seems, that Billy Donovan kind of, you know, operated with when he was on the team. And if you don't know what system I'm talking about there, basically in Billy Donovan's second last year with the team, he operated as, you know, a kind of, I'd say like a 3 that had, you know, Raymond Felton at point, Westbrook at shooting guard, and Paul George at small forward. Like, it was a pretty small 1-3 kind of system. Then he went even further with the next season, creating this death ball team of small ball players that was so fun to watch, where he had Chris Paul, SGA, and Dennis Schroeder all playing like above 33 minutes per game together on the court, and it was insanely fun to watch. Of course, Dennis Schroeder mainly ran the point in terms of not necessarily playmaking, but it seemed like he defended the point guard position a lot. He kind of really swapped around with Chris Paul. Of course, Chris Paul, when he had the ball in his hands, he was trying to be a playmaker. But when Dennis Schroeder had the ball in his hands, he was really trying to facilitate and isolate with the ball. And then you had SGA guarding that small forward position, and it was really, really fun to watch. You had 3 guys out there that could all ball handle. 2 of them could be a really good playmaker. 1 of them was a really good scorer. But all 3 of those guys were pretty, you know, sufficient and, you know, from the field. And what's weird was Chris Paul and SGA really worked well when Dennis Schroeder isolated with the ball. And what I think OKC are going to try and do is, because they were interested in Colin Sexton, you know, before the season even started, I think they might try and bring back this system where they would bring in Colin Sexton through trade, where, you know, it would have to be a sign trade. Of course, he's a free agent. They'd probably pay him around $30 million per year, because that's what seems like he's wanting. There's rumors he wants $35 million per year. He's probably not going to get that. The Cavs will only offer him around $25 million a year, if that. And again, I don't even think they want him. But what's going to happen is, I think it'll be a sign and trade. He'll go play for them, $30 million a year. And they have the cap space to, you know, put him in. That's like what the crazy thing is. They don't have to match up the contracts at all. They have the cap space. So what they do is they'd play Colin Sexton in that Dennis Schroeder role, where he would isolate with the ball, have the ball in his hands heaps, and then right next to him at that shooting guard position, he'd have Josh Giddey there, who'd be playing that Chris Paul role, where he'd be, you know, guarding the shooting guard, but would be mainly, when he has the ball in his hands, he'd mainly be the playmaker. And then at the 3, SGA would move back to the 3, where he'd be an undersized 3 at 6'5", but SGA has proven in his second season with Oklahoma, and even now, he is an elite defender that can definitely guard, you know, players that are way taller than him. He can guard 6'8" players at 6'5". He's spectacular at that. So basically, you'd be bringing in that similar system team where you'd have, you know, Colin Sexton playing that Dennis Schroeder role of being a really big isolator of the ball. And then you would have, of course, you know, Josh Giddey playing that Chris Paul role, SGA playing the role that he played a couple years ago, and then you'd have Lou Dort off the bench, who could practically come in and fill the 1-3, like he's been doing a lot as well. He also is an undersized guy that can guard the 3. Really, it's a really crazy thing. He'd come off your bench, and then basically, as well, you can go out and find a center that can protect the paint, similar to Steven Adams did. Then you really got a team similar to that team that they had a couple years ago. My thing is, who played, they definitely will need a stretch 4. I'm not sure who they go out and get. Considering Gallinari, his trade value is really nothing at the moment. I think the Hawks are really going to be trying to trade him. They could legitimately say to the Hawks, hey, we'll give you this and that, and we'll get Gallinari back, and maybe Gallinari goes and plays back with OKC. I mean, Gallinari's only playing around 20 minutes per game, and just doesn't seem right for the Hawks. But if he was to go back to OKC and play the 30 minutes per game and just be that shooter, his point production could go up to about 15 per game or something like that. And hey, maybe they look for a center. There will be hundreds of centers out there right now, unless they maybe decide to draft one. I don't think they'll have a good enough pick to be able to draft a good center at the moment, but there will be tons of centers looking for new opportunity that can definitely protect the paint. One of them being Mo Bamba, who just doesn't seem to ever work in Orlando. He has actually been averaging 11.5 and 10 this season, shooting threes like a lot now. He shot 22 threes this season, which is crazy to think. And he's a pretty good rim protector. There are guys out there that you can definitely get. And hey, DeAndre Ayton hasn't come to terms with Phoenix right now. They can maybe try and, do a sign and trade there and give up a bunch of first-round picks. Of course, that's never going to happen, but hey, it's a suggestion. But if you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, you might be thinking, all right, this sounds great for OKC and this sounds great for us, but what do we get in return? What I think you can get in return is, because teams will be asking for a lot out of OKC because of the first-round picks they have, you could definitely ask for around 3 to 4 first-round picks, which OKC would 100% give up, because those 3 first-round picks will probably be picks that are 20s to 30s, and they already have enough of those players on their team. They don't need to draft anyone in the 20s to 30s anymore, so I'll be definitely looking to give up those type of picks. The Cavaliers could end up with 3 to 4 and a solid role player if they really, really wanted to, and Oklahoma would 100% do that, because you basically bring in a dude that, with the ball in his hands, playing in that slow system, but also in that death ball, small ball, system. Colin Sexton could average 20 points per game, with Josh Giddey still averaging he could bump up his assist to around 10 per game. And SGA will be SGA. I think it works really, really well for both teams. And the Cavaliers, they get, cap flexibility, where they can then look to maybe do a trade for Brandon Ingram. Some people have suggested they trade Okoro, Kevin Love, and a couple first-round picks. They will definitely offer that. And again, they might still have a first-round pick out of this whole Colin Sexton thing. Of course, Brandon Ingram's trade value is really down at the moment, considering how bad New Orleans have kind of handled that situation. And it looks like if Brandon Ingram requests a trade, his trade value is going to be pretty low. And again, Kevin Love makes sense for the Pelicans. They need a spacer to put alongside Zion, and they can get Okoro, a really nice young dude that can help out, and then a couple first-round picks to definitely do the work for them. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting in my opinion. Of course, definitely let me know all of your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Should Oklahoma go out and trade for Colin Sexton? Should they not? Should the Cavaliers trade him away? Of course, I would definitely really like to know. But as I was saying, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.